All right, we are live on the YouTube stream. I have Miss Jackie Johnson with me, who I've known for the past, I would say 2 years. Jackie, we know each other for the past 2 years,
About 2, 3 years.
about 2, 3 years, and thank you for coming on. Basically, what we're doing, this is another segment of living and doing living and doing business in Africa, the South Africa edition. Miss Johnson has spent time in South Africa and lives in South Africa, is back and forth. So we're just going to go into detail in regards to her experience, what motivated her to relocate to South Africa, how she's able to sustain herself, different business ideas, and then also too, Ms. Johnson will definitely go into detail about what she does in her Profile Africa, as far as her program and what she does. So, Ms. Johnson, thank you for coming on. Thank you so much. We're happy to have you here.
I'm really, really happy to be here with you, Dinus. It's a great opportunity to just share and to hopefully open more eyes and bring more detailed understanding about how to live, work, and play in Africa, but specifically South Africa. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. So just a little bit about your background. So you're from America, obviously, or you are from America. So where were you born? Just tell us about a little bit about your life as far as growing up here in America.
Sure. Born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay. And Duval County. Shout out to Duval County.
In Duval County. And left after high school to go to college at Georgia State University in Atlanta.
Okay.
Did an undergraduate study of pre-law and business, as well as public relations, and started a great career. Lived 20 years in Atlanta. It's been very awesome. Worked in Coca-Cola in corporate mergers and acquisitions. Worked 8 years for the United States Olympic Committee in national fundraising, helping to manage the 12 top corporates that gave $20 million or more to the U.S. Olympic movement. And they were Coke, Delta, IBM, UPS, Sara Lee, Home Depot, Kodak, Xerox, NBC, International Paper, BMW, and Blue Cross Blue Shield. So for 8 years, those were my clients, so to speak, on behalf of the 5 Olympic rings. And my job was to assist in bringing those brands in global recognition from a brand marketing standpoint with the 5 Olympic rings. And back then, the 5 Olympic rings was the most recognized symbol in the world, next to Coca-Cola and the cross. So this is pre-social media and all of that, kind of dating myself, but it made for good experience of knowing how to position brands at a global level, understanding different markets. And with that experience, I moved on to work at our capital in Atlanta as the Director of Legislative Affairs, and from there on to New Markets Development and Corporate Affairs Director for Real Estate Attorneys Firm. Shortly thereafter, 9/11 happened, and our market was shifting as well as a result. And I just felt like there was more for me. I had seen Oprah's Christmas in South Africa. That really inspired me. And then I had a chance meeting of a trade ambassador from Africa to the United States. And he convinced me, this was of course during the George Bush era, as we had passed on from the Clinton era. And he had convinced me that I could take a lot of my skills and influence, the people I knew, great career I had in Atlanta, and add value to Africa's growth story. And at that time, I was at a turning point in my career, very much wanting to look at doing something new, fun, innovative, exciting. And I did have my eye on anywhere that provided that. He convinced me Africa was it. I saw Oprah's Christmas in South Africa, and even though he was not from South Africa, I was inspired by what she did, not knowing that I would eventually end up in South Africa myself. But he was talking to me more about West Africa. I knew a lot of West Africans living in Atlanta, a lot of Nigerians, a lot of Liberians, a lot of Ghanaians. And I was open. But one of the things he inspired me to do was one, he became my mentor. And he was a very brilliant man who lived in the United States and was educated in the U.S. for about 30 years, but he did U.S. Africa work. And he inspired me to learn as much as I could about foreign direct investment out of the United States into Africa. Now, this was the early 2000s, 2002, 3, 4, and he was just advising me on what America was actually investing in as it pertained to Africa. And he said, get out on the speaking circuit. We're talking about FDI. And I did. And in so doing, I met at a conference a delegation of South African officials who happened to be in Atlanta at this conference. And they were inspired by what I was sharing, as well as my bio that was in the program as a speaker. And they offered me an opportunity to come to South Africa to see how what I knew, who I knew, could add value to the growth story. And they offered me a diplomatic invitation. That was in 2004. I actually took my first trip there in 2005. And this year I'm celebrating 12 years in Africa.
Wow.
So that's how I got my beginning.
Okay. I noticed a trend. There's an echo. I don't know if that's me or, but I'm noticing a trend that many, like the Black Americans who relocate to Africa and who are successful have experience in corporate America versus ones who, how can I put it without being disrespectful, somewhat in a conscious community that don't have experience in corporate America, who just, you know, are spiritually attracted to Africa. Do you think having experience in corporate America will benefit someone who's relocating to a certain specific country in Africa?
Absolutely. And I do want to say that with my company being Profile Africa, I know a lot about other countries and not just South Africa. Let me preface by saying South Africa is kind of viewed as the America
Yes,
in
I was
Africa.
not to cut you off, but I was told that I was at the airport in Johannesburg and I
Mm.
lost my luggage and I forgot what happened. Just talking to the baggage people, and they're like, "Dude, South Africa is America, Africa." That's what he told me. I forgot what happened, but he was going to the system or doing something. I'm used to, like, if something happens like in Senegal, it's very archaic, I guess, as far as trying to get something done. But in South Africa, it was literally like America, even better. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I do want to say why that is. Hey, you know, Nelson Mandela became a global icon. And obviously, as a result, made where he's from a global icon on the continent. Some African countries might resent that fact, but that is the fact. And in so doing, after President Nelson Mandela's reign, then there was Thabo Mbeki. And although he didn't have a good grasp on things on the ground, one of the things he did have was that global diplomatic uh, ability to keep South Africa at the forefront. It's like some African country had to push and be first so that it could bring mostly all of Africa with it. South Africa has done that successfully. And in so doing, it brought huge development there, very much like Atlanta after the 96 Olympic Games. That's how I see the relevance. I really do. It's very, very much like the growth trajectory of Atlanta. And it also acquired a global games like the Soccer World Cup and other global events that constantly kept South Africa at the forefront. And it made it a gold mine, literally, from gold to diamonds to platinum, as well as corporate head, national or I should say Africa international headquarters for a lot of things, including the NBA now. NBA Africa is in Johannesburg. But
Wow.
I'm just saying that South Africa's development, and so it developed the personality in the global society of being first, the best, cutting edge, and they have more development partners than the United States, obviously. They have Russia, Germany, and many others, the French. So when you come to South Africa, you're going to see a variety of those influences in the architecture, in the designs, even in the new rail system. It's state of the arts. Everything is fast and powerful and new and fresh and awesome. And so what they've done on the education side of things is they want the best minds here or there, because I'm not physically in South Africa right now, but they want the best minds there at the table. One of the ways I can tell you that was sustaining for me in the beginning, or maybe not the immediate beginning, but the second tier of my beginning in South Africa, was being a strategic advisor
Mm.
to companies, corporations that needed to engage well with government, and they wanted fresh growth perspectives to assist them in doing so. And that became the real strategy arm of Profile Africa, that we provide a lot of strategy to companies on growth plans. And not just those that are there physically in South Africa, but even the ones here in America that want to engage in the African market. That is also very, very important, that they have those fresh growth perspectives from the basis of understanding corporate visions. There's a corporate America, but there's also corporate South Africa. And their C-suite and their upper management, upper executive management is very diverse, mainly too because a lot of times they're white companies trying to do business in an all black or predominantly black environment, and they need those insights, as well as the fact that they really still look a lot to the United States in how we frame our growth plans and how we implement them. So implementation and strategy has been really key in that area of bringing your corporate knowledge there.
Let me.
And on the entrepreneur side, it's more about you as an entrepreneur coming with something, a good know-how, a good rollout plan. How do you implement and do something systemic and sustainable? Is how you really do well and make money in Africa across the board. Sharing knowledge, training is so key. People have a thirst for knowledge here and all over the continent. So sharing your knowledge is very important as well in a commercially viable way.
What are some of the major differences between, we'll say, corporate America and corporate Africa that you notice?
Oh, that's a great question. Really good question.
Because I think this is what I heard. Not to cut you off. Like in America, when you do business or agree to something, you sign contracts. I heard in Africa, like that could be deemed as disrespectful. That your word is your bond. Everything is done by a handshake. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, that's not necessarily true. Because one of the things that's really common here or there in South Africa that I think is across the board in Africa is MOUs, memorandums of understandings.
Mm.
People want that MOU at the gate of whatever you agree upon, just to feel comfortable that this is a legitimate opportunity. So it depends. Now, if you're in cosmopolitan corporate South Africa, you need that contract. If you are in the village,
Hmm.
and you're dealing with a chief or an Nkosi or a tribal leader, maybe there your handshake is, and then you got to really show up in that space. The other thing that I really think is key Oh God, I mean, you're not going to get anywhere or anything if you're coming to Africa, looking for a job.
Okay, let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. So, many people when they come on this platform, they ask, basically, where can I find a job once I go to Africa? And everyone has been consistent, and it's coming from you now too, that when you go to Africa, you shouldn't be looking for a job. You should be
No,
looking to create opportunities or coming as an entrepreneur. Can you build
absolutely.
on that?
Yeah, definitely. I so agree. And here's the reason why. Everybody listen up that's from America watching this video. Unemployment in the United States right now is 4%. Why would you leave a country of 4% unemployment to go somewhere that possibly even has 40% unemployment?
Wow.
You should be drugged in the streets and beat to death, because that is not common sense anywhere on the planet, first of all.
Repeat that one more time. Repeat. They got to hear that one more time. Repeat that one more
I'm
time.
saying in America right now, unemployment is 4%. That is back to the Bill Clinton days when we could have 3 jobs because not because we had to, but because we wanted to, myself included. I wanted my fancy red sports car in the 90s, and I got it because I got a second job.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I needed it, because my first job was more than enough. But if to get ahead and to have travel money to go to the Bahamas and Jamaica and Hawaii and my red sports car and my Louis Vuitton bag, I got a couple of jobs on the side.
Uh-huh.
Knowing that when I take this telemarketing job and go to Jamaica for the weekend with my girlfriends, they're going to fire me. But do I care? No, because I can come back next Tuesday
Find another
and
job.
literally get another one.
Mm-hmm.
We are in those times. So why are you wanting to leave America to go to Africa where there's 40% unemployment in many places, 40? And so what you as a African American should aspire to do is go and get involved in the growth story of Africa, the growth plan, create an opportunity for yourself and others. Because until you're able to demonstrate that, they don't see your value. And you might as well be someone that they're going to assume a xenophobic attack on. Because, like in South Africa, they might think if you came from Gambia, Zambia, or Mozambique, or Malawi, or Zimbabwe, now they're ready to beat you in the streets because you came in their mind to take their job. So you don't want to do that as an African American. You have all of America to offer to the continent. You have contacts, you have a work history, you have experience, you have prospectively an expertise, and I hope a brand. And if you don't have all of that in an organized fashion, call me. I'll make sure that you do, so that you are marketable to the African market. But Africa is not America. First, Africa is not America. So it's not a free whosoever will let them come market. And if you're going to come and wear this cloak about you as an American, you're already still not going to have anything, because you need to get from Africa what Africa offers you that America doesn't, and that's culture. See, I'm a real African American, because America has been great to teach me everything that there is to know about being an American, but only Africa can teach me what it means to know about being an African.
Right.
So until you go and become an African, if you're going to come, and I saw one of your other videos of someone whose name I'm not going to call, but he's too busy living his life in Africa as an American. He's not going to get far. He needs to uncloak himself and go sit in culture, because that is the difference between corporate America and corporate Africa across the continent. Never mind just South Africa, because South Africa might be a little different because of its apartheid influences, and it may mirror more America, corporate America, than any other African corporate establishment. But one thing I do know, if you intend to leave corporate Africa even and go do business in government in Africa, you must be cultured to do so. And if you're not ready to be impressed and baptized also by culture, you're not going to get far unless you gang banging, bringing all your own money and doing just strictly your own things, and you're still not going to go far. Because here's the distinction I can clearly draw for you in terms of the difference between Africa and America. America teaches us how to be very independent, but Africa teaches us how to be interdependent, where we're interrelated one to another for success. No man is an island on that continent. Even the richest people, from Aleko Dangote to Patrice Motsepe of South Africa, everyone who has amassed millions into being a billionaire on the continent has done so by providing something that people need and use every single day. And they have been a source for growth. But so I beg you, save your money. Don't come looking for a job. You will starve, and rightfully so. You're from America. Stay home or stay there in the United States and work your things and make money. Have money to come to Africa. Work 3 jobs for a year and live on one meager income. Because in South Africa, the currency exchange rate is nearly 14 to 1. So if you have $1,000, you have nearly 14,000 rands.
Right.
Rands will take you quite far. Only you're using $1,000 to do it. It almost gives you the same value as $14,000 does in America. So be wise in that respect. And then the other thing that I highly, highly recommend, which is something that even Profile Africa provides, is what I call a go see. Go see the country or city where you want to live and work. And what we do on Profile Africa side is we have created some unique experiences for African Americans to take their first trip ever to the continent. You want to come to South Africa and other areas, then we create a program for you to come and actually see the actual market that your business is in and meet some critical individuals that are relevant to your workspace. Partners even on the ground if that's what you need, and understand staffing and culture and all the nuances and things that a video is not going to give you. You know, a travel guide won't offer that. You know, you got to have people that are on the ground, have experience, and have experience in both markets. Also, we do training and teach you some things that you need to know in order to successfully navigate yourself on the ground, even in your first experience. And because people in South Africa, there are 14 official languages, and only 2 of them are English based. So everybody speaks, the average person in Africa, not just in South Africa, but in Africa, speaks a minimum of 3 languages. Oftentimes, English is their 3rd language and not their first spoken language. So that means that cat, dog, and house doesn't always mean the same cat, dog, and house you and I understand, because we typically have heard one language our entire life. And so that vocabulary, as well as the slang aspect of that language, is very broad and clearly understood between me and you. But you know from going home yourself that when you travel these African countries, their English is staggered or broken, or even if it's very pronounced, it's not that deep in terms of knowing every word like we know it. So you have to understand how to speak to people English in a way that they understand it. And we offer advisory in that and in other areas to help you effectively experience Africa the areas that you may be focused on looking at, from real estate to telecommunications to hotel development. I mean, there's just some massive things going on the continent that is open for business that you need to know about. And we assist you with that.
You mentioned the unemployment rate in Africa, and I'm guessing it might be 40% in South Africa as well. Is that correct? Or close to it?
It's at least 25.
25%. Now, is this unemployment rate, is it affecting indigenous Black Africans more than, we'll say, Indians? And I guess, do they call them, they still consider themselves Afrikaners? And the reason why I say that is just, you know, when I came to South Africa, I noticed that Indians and whites pretty much controlled the economy. The Black people I saw working when I was in Cape Town at a restaurant, you know, they said they were working at a specific restaurant because of the affirmative action program. So is it safe to say that, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, that indigenous Africans in South Africa do not control the economy and that the unemployment rate affects the Black Africans more than, we'll say, whites and Indians? And why is that?
Okay, we have 4 dominant cultural groups in South Africa. We have the Africans that have 7, 9, maybe 9 tribes, prominent tribes. There are probably a whole lot more, but in terms of the bigger ones, the Indians, white people. Now, white people, there are 2 kinds of white people in South Africa. There's the white English, who are the real colonizers or part of them, and then the Afrikaners.
Okay.
And then we have what we call colored people.
Right.
Colored people to us would be a Milano.
Right.
And it's not necessarily just black-white mix. Excuse me, it's any mix, like Indian and Black or Indian and white. Any mixed race person in South Africa is identified as colored. And they also are driven into certain geographies. Like if you say Cape Town, then you're going to see a lot of colored people in Cape Town. A lot of mixed race people in Cape Town. And the lines of demarcation in every area of South Africa is kind of different. Like in Cape Town, it's really ruled a lot by colored people, and then whites and Indians and Blacks. Now, if you come to KwaZulu-Natal, Durban, where Essence Festival is, then you're going to see a lot of Black domination because that's the home of the Zulus. And they're very aggressive, and they, you know, taking control. The ANC is running, you know, KwaZulu-Natal for the most part, and you know, so it's a big rainbow. It's very different in every province of the country. Johannesburg, it's more of a balance because one ruling party governs now versus a couple of years ago when they had a longer time there, and the ANC was there, and then it's a melting pot. It's the global mecca of the continent, but surely of the country. So it just depends. But in general, let me say that Indian people are very closely knitted. Ooh, if we could become that way, we would make quantum leaps as Black people. But they're very, very united. They are like the African Americans in South Africa. They were brought over as slaves. And so if we want to ever look at what we could have been doing and should be doing as African Americans who came from slavery, we should look at what the Indians are doing in South Africa as former slaves. You know, very united, very together. They focus a lot on certain industries like banking and finance,
hotel
hospitality, and also technology, ITC. And as a result of that, and being so closely knit, they have been able to pull themselves up and out and make billions as a community.
Mhm.
Um, and keeping the business circulating within. We still need to do that even in America. You know, we spend $1.3 trillion a year outside of our community. If we could even just start bringing half of that back to ourselves and reinvesting collectively in Africa, man, we would turn this thing around. Even just to own a hotel, an
Mhm.
80-bed, 3-star hotel is going to, in a strategic place somewhere in South Africa and other areas of Africa, Kenya, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, with that hotel, 80% of the time is going to be booked at 80% occupancy.
Right. Which is good.
The other 20% is going to be booked 100%. And those are probably imbalanced numbers. I could probably change that to 60-40. I could probably say 60% of the time it's going to be 80% booked. 40% of the time it's going to be 100% booked. Especially somewhere like South Africa, Ghana, Kenya, that are heavy conference-driven countries, in Nigeria. So when you look at how these guys have quantum leaped, then that's the trend to follow in Africa. ITC still making billions every day, turning it over. Telecommunications, turning it over, billions every day. Hotel, hospitality, apartments, condos, uh, duplexes, mixed use, all of it is, hey, 7 out of 10 of the world's fastest growing economies are on the continent of Africa. And there are about 7 industries driving growth in some areas of double digits. Surely 5 to 7% growth for a lot of African countries are taking place last year, this year, on to 2025. So this is really an important time to do business in Africa. This is really an important time to keep those dollars in your pocket in the United States and start looking at putting your money at the next global growth pole, because everywhere else has been developed and squandered
Right.
and an incredible opportunity in terms of even investing in things relative to the millennials. And that's the other thing. Our millennials in the United States don't have the bondage of history of thinking Africa is a dark continent. They were born with the internet
Yeah,
in
but
their.
they still do. They still think Africa's a dark continent.
No, I don't know. Let me tell you my experience, because I've taken a personal survey myself
Mhm.
while I'm in America. There, I know I have asked over 500 millennials. That could be a conservative number because I go to a lot of huge events, and one campaign I'm on is taking this survey, and there's not been one out of all the 500 millennials I've asked, there's not been one that if I asked them, would you take on an opportunity, if you were given an opportunity to go to Africa and see it with your own eyes and look at opportunities, would you take it? There has been hands down 100% high level, yes, yes, take me, I'll go, I'm ready to go tomorrow.
Wow.
And not one of them have thought Africa was the bush, war-torn, AIDS-ridden, civil unrest. Not one of them thought that that was the summation of the entire continent. And so that is an important market to understand and pay attention to, because what is double on the Black millennial spectrum is the Black millennials sitting in Africa and their
Right.
mindset. These guys are educated because they are benefactors of their parents being the first one out the gate and having an opportunity to be educated, or their grandparents were the first tier of blacks in government in Africa that made money, that sent their parents abroad for college at Cambridge University, in London, and France, and in the United States and Germany. And so those first generation college educated Africans have either stayed away and worked with some experience and have come back home, or they're still out here in the diaspora, highly educating their children, as well as taking them home and teaching them culture, or returning to Africa and creating opportunities. And that millennial crowd, I'm telling you, is chasing nothing but billions. They're not even happy discussing millions. They are reclaiming their heritage as well. If you'll see that the Nigerian millennials is bringing back cultural attire and making it fashion like nobody's business, I'm telling you. And it's flying off the shelves in Nigeria and around the continent and the world in the diaspora. It's really amazing. So these guys are awake and alive, and it would behoove us who are not millennials to work in that space because they have the longest gate for success. They're young, they're in their 20s, they're educated, they have money, as well as our millennials here in the US who tend to travel in groups of 10, 15, 20, 25 at a time. That's very important to be aware of, as well as tourism. Travel and tourism business is booming across the continent, as well as outside of the United States. Do you know that last year African Americans spent $50 billion in the travel industry? 50 billion.
Right, but see, my question to you is, and this is my experience, just on different travel platforms and groups, how much of that 50 billion has actually been to travel to Africa?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I've recently done some research on that. 25%. And it's increasing
Do you think
every day.
so? You really think so?
Yeah, I really do. And because what I'm telling you is that social media, the internet has, it's first of all leveled the playing field. It's totally leveled the playing field in terms of knowledge. No longer can the negative stories about Africa continue to hang out there. Have the internet and the ability through social media to go and show the truth and see the truth for themselves, which makes our uh, generation a lot more inquisitive because now they can see that yes, there's a problem somewhere, but that doesn't surmise the whole of Africa. And it also shows people how and where to engage or to explore and understand opportunities, as well as have the courage now to go and physically see it on the ground. So yeah, I mean, I think that number is changing and growing by leaps and bounds. I really do. And part of the work, even of Profile Africa, is to continue fostering a greater understanding of what Africa really offers, particularly the African American. That is the campaign we are on. And also showing people how $15,000, how you spend that here in the United States and what that gets you versus those same $15,000 in Africa or South Africa. Because 15 or $30,000 here, or even let's say you want to buy a house or an apartment, upscale something that costs $150,000 here. That same $150,000 in South Africa could get you possibly 3 townhouses with garages that get sold literally off plan because the demand is so great. Or pooling your economic relationships together and coming up with a private equity fund that funds those kinds of things or gets involved in the telecommunication growth. The average person in Africa has at least 3 cell phones. The average person, not the top tier CEO guy, but the average person across Africa has 3 cell phones. Why? And because they're looking at mobile TV and mobile, any kind of digital entertainment more on their phones than on any other device. They're not as inept as we are to looking at television on a big screen on the wall. They're not into that as much as we are. So they're more into the different phone carriers that offer large broadband packages for a little bit of money so that they can continue viewing on handheld devices, be it the pad, the tablet, or their phone. And that's what I'm saying. The average person in Africa has a minimum of 3 phones. And so that creates a huge platform opportunity to engage with them. We don't have to wait until we get the big TV contract because we can involve ourselves in social media or through the internet in terms of how we communicate our brand and our story, as well as get to see their world, show them our world, because that's the other thing. They, as much as they see us on television, they do want to see more of our real life, and we want to see more of theirs. Well, mobile TV offers that, and that's growing and big, 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 big in Africa.
That's cool. So as far as what you do at Profile Africa, as far as getting people established, if they want to, I guess, get involved in the African market, the African marketplace, can we go into detail about that?
Okay, sure. Like I said, the very first thing that I do is recommend a goal see. You can't just wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to move to Africa. Because even when I took my very first trip in 2005, it was beautiful. It was awesome. It was overwhelming. I cried every day just from the experience. It was just so magical. I knew that my destiny was there, but I couldn't just pack up my life and boom, go there. Because of that, I took so many trips going back and forth back then. Now, mind you, that was 12 years ago. And thanks to a lot of work that I and you and many other people have done, that that type of rigorous preliminary environment is not necessary today. But it took me a good 2-3 years to get there, find my feet, and a lot of going back and forth. That way is a lot smoother now, more systemic now, but I still recommend that go see, because there's a certain knowledge that you're only going to acquire from your feet touching the soil.
Right.
And you walking through that environment of where you want to place your talent or your business idea, or some of the strategic relationships or access to money or funding or whatever your service is in your business. But you got to get on the ground and actually experience how it's done successfully. So what we do is create that go see space for you. You go to Africa, meet strategic leaders, the stakeholders, understand how the actual business of what you do is being done on the ground, understand regulatory requirements and register your company and all of the bells and whistles that's required so that you can make an informed, intelligent decision about how to expand your business or establish your brand in that place. Also, it's not just service related things. That if you are a personality and you have a niche area that your brand is doing quite well in here in the US, and there's a stronger possibility that it could even be bigger in Africa. Maybe you're a speaker, maybe you're an author, and people just need to know who you are. Well, Profile Africa makes sure that you know Africa and that Africa knows you. And so that's really important as well, because awesome social media platform over there, people still could be kind of skeptical or say, well, who are they or how are they relevant? Because that part is very important. Making you relevant to that market, because people don't process information or brands the same way. And coming with...
Hold on. Sorry about that.
Okay. Are you fine?
Yeah, I'm fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And because people don't process information the same way, meaning the way a brand looks here may not be the way it needs to look there. There may be some fine tuning, changing in order to make that brand relevant for that market. And that's what 12 years in Africa has given me the understanding of how to achieve for you. And so that part is very important. I don't recommend anybody just hightailing it and saying, "Oh, I'm going to wake up in the morning and I got $1,000 even, and I'm going to go move to Africa." No, take those $1,000 and go visit Africa and start seeing some of the things that are pertinent to what you want to do, so that you can have a clear path of how to engage it successfully. And that's what
you mentioned you just made a great point when you ended that. You said, don't take your $1,000 and just hightail it to Africa. I get a lot of people who think that's a great idea. You say you need to visit first. And I'm glad you made that point. Now, as far as living in Africa, I know you had some pictures and photos you wanted to share of your beautiful home and how you could live in South Africa. Now, is your home in Joburg, or is it in Cape Town, or where is it?
It's in Johannesburg.
Johannesburg, okay.
It's around the corner from the stock exchange. Very much like Buckhead, Atlanta, because there are days that I can walk down the street and forget where I am. Literally, it can feel for a split second like I'm in Atlanta, in Buckhead. Or I can be in Buckhead, and for a split second, I'll feel like I'm back home in Johannesburg. So I do want to say that it's developed, it's beautiful, and I'll show you some of the pictures of my place, but I'll also show you some other places that are a lot more elaborate than mine. But I do want to say that on the visa side of things, for visiting or traveling to South Africa as an American with an American passport, upon entry, they give you a 90-day visa.
Okay.
And it's not a one you have to request ahead, it's on arrival. And so that's a good thing, that once you go, you get to stay for 90 days if your life and money allow you to. And I'm hoping.
And then what about as far as are you a South African citizen at all? Like, what's that?
No, I'm not a citizen there at all. I'm not sure. You know, America is very strict about dual citizenship.
Really?
Yeah, because even I think it was Tina Turner who gave up her citizenship to become a citizen at whatever country.
Somewhere in Asia, I think, some Asian country.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if it's Asia or Germany or wherever she is, but she had to give up her American citizenship to become a citizen there.
Okay.
And they don't just let you maintain your U.S. citizenship and another country's all the time. And so, no. And then also, traveling globally, you want to keep your American citizenship because, well, the Trump story is a little interesting now, but prior to that, that is the most coveted passport to have, and offers the most ease of travel around the world. And it's sometimes an African passport outside of Africa that can be a challenge to you. So you definitely want to, in my opinion, always keep your American citizenship. Very important.
Let me ask you this before you go into your photos of your home. What challenges have you faced as far as living and doing business in South Africa? Like, what have you encountered that you might want to, share with people or warn people on? Or just testimony, give your testimony on it.
Yeah, I would say, like, at first, I think I made the faux pas that I mentioned before about the young man whose video I had seen of your interview of him, that you cannot come to Africa and live your life as an American. It's just not cool, man. It's really not cool. And as much as that, being an American, because people will obviously hear that of you from your accent, you just can't, because some people see it as arrogant or being proud. And Africa is a very humble place. I look at Nkosana Dlamini Zuma, the former head of the African Union, first female ever. And when she finished her term, she came back home to South Africa and served like a humble girl from the village.
Mm-hmm.
And that is truly how you roll in Africa. So I would say that not understanding that at the first off, and not having someone to make that distinction for me, it was a hard lesson to learn. But once I learned it, it became the crown on my head. And I'm very serious about that. That you have to go to cultural events and be ready to just robe yourself of being like the American and partake in culture. Sleep where they sleep, eat where they eat, dress the way they dress, to become aware of what culture means to them and how it carries out throughout society. Because and learn the language, learn the language, learn the language, learn the language,
I'm
learn the
guilty.
language,
I'm
learn the
just as
language.
guilty. I have to learn it. I'm just as guilty. And it's to the point now when I go to Senegal, I go so much. They look at me like, you don't speak Wolof yet? What is wrong with you? So I'm
Correct.
guilty. I'm guilty.
Yeah. And on the language aspect, I will say this too, that if you want to do business broadly in Africa, you must learn to speak French.
Yes.
Other
Yes.
people say you must learn to speak French because a lot of Africa is Francophone Africa, which is colonized by the French speaking African countries. And like the French, they don't like speaking English or any other language, and you will be left on the sidelines. Because when they caucus and come together, they don't make any allowances for you in how to speak French,
Mm-hmm.
as do like Zulu people in KwaZulu-Natal or in South Africa in general. A lot of times they can speak English, but Zulu is the dominant language, and it's important to learn that as well. Even if you don't learn all of it, learn enough to be honorable and respectful of culture, because that's very, 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 very important. Got to know that. You must not come to Africa and not learn, understand, respect, and implement culture. Very important.
Okay.
And that's what becomes your welcome mat. You bring your own welcome mat with you by the condition of your heart towards people, places, and things that you don't know and don't understand. Don't be the idiot American that criticizes everything that you don't understand. And just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Right.
It just means you lack knowledge. You lack the understanding. Keep quiet, do as other people do, and learn the culture, learn the local language, and be respectful.
Mm.
It's just the initial advice that I offer to everyone. And that alone, stay humble in your heart and a student always of culture, and find good people to mentor you, people of influence to mentor you, and just be humble. Don't be the American always coming with the answer. They don't like that.
Okay. Yeah, but please share your photos of your home so people can know how you can
Okay,
live.
yeah. So also, I do want to say that,
Go.
hang on, did I click on, okay. All right, like this picture here, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, this place I got in 2012, shortly after the Soccer World Cup. I'm just trying to bring up that.
Yes.
Is that a different picture?
Yes. It's of like your balcony.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know. I probably should have opened up all of these pictures, so please forgive me. This is
No,
a,
no, no problem. No problem.
this is a spare bedroom here. It's, you know, um, Johannesburg, at least you can get a lot of furnished apartments for 20,000 rands, and depending on the exchange rate at the time, that could mean $1,200 for you.
Hmm.
This place here in 2012, shortly after the Soccer World Cup. This building actually was built for NBC, and its camera crew, all the equipment crew, and everyone who be attending and working for the Soccer World Cup. And you know, media had to come months ahead, etc. So this is my place, and it was prime at the time, and has all Bosch high-end appliances. And I originally got this place for about 14,000 rands a month, which today would be like $1,000.
Hmm.
I've since then acquired it, and you know,
When you say acquired, you mean you purchased it?
well, my thing was a strategic lease with an option to buy later. So
Okay.
that's what I did. On the owning property side in South Africa, you cannot, as a foreigner, own farmland. You know, like acres and acres of land in areas where they use it to cultivate for vegetation and grow, or to farm animals, cows and things, because that's the earthiness of Africa, and it's no longer open for market to foreigners. But you can own, you know, an apartment or a duplex, or commercially in commercial. You can own airspace. That's it. You can own airspace, and this is airspace because it's
Let me ask you this. So, a condo like this, you say you're in an area like Buckhead, the Buckhead of Johannesburg.
yeah. Can you see the next
I
picture?
see. Yeah, we see all the pictures. We see all the pictures.
Yeah.
Is it what is it like 3 bedroom, 2 bath, or what is it?
That the first place that I showed you is a 2 bedroom, 2 bath. But
Okay.
yeah, that place is a 2 bedroom, 2 bath. But there are many others that are 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. Um, you can even get even like a very palatial place. Those run you on the lease side 30, 40, 50,000 rand a month.
So if you wanted to buy something like the first one you showed us in an
Mhm.
area like where you're currently living, how much would that cost to like buy?
Um, Today that would be about 1.8 million rand, and then you would divide that by 13.5, I would say.
Okay, let's see.
And
1.8. Okay, hold on. 1.8. I'm doing the math right now. 1.8 million
oh yeah,
rand to USD. That's not bad. That's $139,000. That's not bad.
right,
That's not
right,
bad at all.
right, right. And then what? Okay, because see, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Um, I need to close some of these windows. This is my bedroom, guys. This is my bedroom.
$130,000 for something like that. 2 bedroom, 2 bath in like an area like Buckhead. That's not bad at all.
Right. I'm closing some of these pictures so I can see the other ones that I have up to show you. But like that,
Yes.
and this is a house that is just so beautiful. I mean, really, a nice house in South Africa like this would be about 2.5 million rand.
Okay, let's do the numbers on that. So 2.5 million, that's probably about $200,000, I guess. But let's see.
And what I'm saying, guys, is what you got to understand. And this is so exciting and so amazing. On the real,
That's only $193,000. That's, I mean,
come on. Can we get that here in America for $193,000?
no, absolutely not. No. Mm.
Correct. And so what I'm saying is I really put this for real. One good trip to Africa, and I'm sure you agree, Dinus, you
Mm-hmm.
could really care less what's happening here.
Could care less.
I mean, all you care about is making money to position yourself, your brand, and your business in Africa. Because if you're thinking beyond today, right now, where are you going to be 5 years from now in these United States of America? I am really serious. I just want people to stop it. Stop buying Michael Kors and all this nonsense. Just stop the train right now.
Mm-hmm.
Reassess, take assessment of your future, your immediate future. Where are you going to be even 2 years from now with Donald Trump as president or any regime of his sort? Where is your child's future going to be? How are you going to quantum leap yourself? How are you going to build a lasting legacy? Where are you going to do that? By what means? I mean, really, do you really think running around in this place is really going to set your pace for the future? With our rights and so many other things constantly being taken away, you're watching your kids go to school in terror. You can't even trust your husband to come back home at night. He could be gunned down for any stupid reason. I mean, is this the life you want, or is this on the screen the life you want? I'm serious. I mean, buying
Oh,
another
wow.
Michael Kors, another Louis Vuitton bag, Jimmy Choo shoes, and carrying on. Honestly, we don't care. I don't care. Dinus doesn't care. We're saving our money. We've turned a corner, and you gotta just wake up. Start by going to Africa. Go see.
Mm.
Go see for yourself. You can stand in this apartment right here that I'm showing you
Mm.
on the screen. Do you see that view behind you? It's
Yeah.
amazing. That's why when I was in New York, that's why they had to come that way and show me, because I already showed them how I live already. Then don't take me to on the second level of anything. And I'm just saying that whatever 3 to 5 year plan you have here, you can just times 10 that if you put that same plan in Africa. I'm telling you, the roads are new, the hospitals are new, the schools are new, everything is new. Let me see if I can find.
And I was going to say this too. In my honest opinion, in South Africa and in Namibia, the infrastructure there is, as far as the roads and whatnot, is better than the majority of places here in America. And I lived in LA, I lived in Atlanta, where the bridges are falling down. You have a bunch of sinkholes. Like right now, around the corner, there's a large sinkhole the other day. So they had to block off the street. My honest opinion, the infrastructure is better in places like Namibia and South Africa than it is the majority of places here in America. And cleaner.
Absolutely, 100,000%. And I also want to talk about food quality. Okay,
Oh, yes, let's talk about that too. Go ahead.
I want to say that I'm 10 times healthier when I'm living in Africa than I can ever hope to be while I'm in the United States. Food is from the ground to the table that side, I can assure you. Meat is so amazing. And my skin, everything just clears up. And I don't have ailments or anything. I'm telling you, when I was there for 5 years straight, uninterrupted, I lived by eating organic foods that I get from the grocery store. I wasn't paying high value for them or anything. I and I also watch Dr. Oz every day and did the natural supplements of things. See, what you got to know is here in America, the Food and Drug Administration is a racket working together.
Right.
Their food is not um, their food is not organically grown, and it's not designed to make you healthy. It's actually designed to create an ailment for you to need the pharmaceuticals. And the pharmaceuticals don't cure you, they just treat you to keep you coming back again and again and again. We live from the soil. We take our medicine from the soil and it heals us, it cures us. So it's finished. High blood pressure, done. Diabetes, done. You know? And so whatever remedy is being used there is kind of like what we would call our grandmother's old wives' tale kind of stuff, but it's working and it cures us completely so we don't have to keep popping pills. When I first came back to the United States after being gone for a while, I said, you know what? Americans are drug addicts. Everybody's on a drug for something. And it's really insane. And so you're never cured of anything in this country. You're never healed naturally from any prescription, nothing. It's designed to keep you on it for a minimum of 5 years, minimum. While it's got you dependent on that for 5 years, it's also creating another issue in your body that's making you ill. If you look at the commercials about drugs, that they have these violins playing behind in these beautiful pictures while they're telling you how this thing is going to kill you.
Right.
But that's not the story in Africa. So, you live better, more holistically. And the other thing I love about the continent is that you could be the richest person in the world there. It doesn't matter. Culture goes with you from the ground level to the ivory towers. You take culture with you. So there's a certain structure of male and female roles and respect and honor that exists. I so like the guy in is it Senegal?
Yeah. You're talking about RJ Monty.
RJ, I love you, man. We had a brief chat in social media. I haven't forgotten you. I'm really calling you. You're amazing because he has done such a great job. I really encourage people to go to his video of, you guys interview. It was
Yes.
so informative. He's done it the right way. He's created business in Senegal in the region. He's created a few brands that's doing extremely well. I so like that guy. I so respect the progress that he's made. But one of the things I want you to observe that he's done is that he's taken the platform of having lived in America, been an American like me, like you, and he's used it in the right way in terms of showing people what Africa really is without trying to remain an American doing it. And he's taken on or been released in his full culture of his faith to the other culture of being an African in Senegal. Business guys, he didn't go looking for a job. Hello. He created business. He has an internet cafe. He's serving the community. Very, very, very important. Do not go to Africa looking for a job, you African American, you. And
Right.
shame on you if you do. I'm telling you, your days are numbered. And may they kick you off the continent. Go adding value. Go creating an opportunity for yourself and others. Go stay out of these department stores. Stay offline shopping in America and save your money. Go to Africa and make a difference. Let your money work for you. Far better, greater opportunities in Africa than you could ever hope for carrying around a Louis Vuitton bag in the United States.
Mm.
Just stop it. And when you're talking about taking a trip, round trip to South Africa is about $1,300, and that could be at a high peak season.
And that's high.
Yeah,
Not to cut you off, you can find a ticket round trip to South Africa
it's
sometimes
about
for about
8 or 9.
$600. Yeah.
Right, right, right. So plan your next holiday, vacation time. Call, get in touch with us, Profile Africa. I can give you our number. Go to our website, profileafrica.org. We're about to launch our new website. It's coming soon. And at Profile Africa, and we will make a program for you to come to Africa and see firsthand the opportunities that's available to you. But you got to stop spending your money foolishly in this country. I really just, hey, when you get a bonus or end of year or birthday, anniversary, Christmas money, whatever, you would not even understand how far $2,000 can take you there than here.
Right.
Even if you started a local business there at a small level, in 2 years' time, you will have quadrupled it there, doubled it, maybe. And if you're an investor that looks at high ROI, low risk, Africa is the place to be, especially in the area of real estate, telecommunications, doing public-private partnerships with governments. South Africa, don't make any mistake about it, it has a very rich government. They have lots of money. Don't listen to anything but what I'm telling you. They have a lot of money. And South Africa loves to be first. They want to be the fastest, the swiftest, and they compete a lot with Nigeria. So those two markets are very robust.
Now, Nigeria has the largest economy in Africa now, right? Or did it shift back to South
Now,
Africa?
they shift back to South Africa mainly because of some stuff going on in their presidential areas. Not that things aren't going on in America or South Africa's presidential area. That's the other thing I do want to say. Um, Governing today is never without scandal. Social media has changed the landscape of the presidency around the world. And with Donald Trump being such a sensational person in that domain, it has heightened and brought that kind of even aggression, media aggression, into White Houses around the world. So, in my opinion, especially for Africa and where it's growing and how fast it's growing, 7 out of 10 of the world's fastest growing economies are on the continent of Africa.
Mm.
So Africa is outpacing most of the regions around the world in terms of growth. And it almost doesn't even matter who the president is. It's about the market and what's happening on the ground and people's need to be mobile. People's need to move to where growth and development is. More cosmopolitan regions that's getting developed first. Remember, they didn't have roads, they didn't have schools always, they didn't have hospitals. And so all that kind of growth is what's happening, as well as the residential environment coming to join that so that the economy continues to grow. That's what you need to be tracking and paying attention to in terms of looking at where opportunities are. And so as a result of that, like I said, it almost doesn't matter. But also look at new democracies like Gambia. Gambia had the upset of the century, presidential upset of the century, where the previous president conceded to the election, the presidential election, back in November, December, or it might have been, yeah, November. Then he changed his mind and thought that the old way of governing Africa was going to continue, and he
Right.
wanted to stay in office. Well, the cluster of power brokers, other African countries in the region bound themselves together militarily, and they were going to drive that guy out of the office because it was an unprecedented election, very much like the US president. The new president, like Donald Trump, in only this sense only, is a real estate developer.
Mm-hmm.
Never been in office before, has taken office, has a heart for growing Gambia. Gambia sits in Senegal, but it's an
Mm-hmm.
English-speaking country, which is very important to know. It's an English-speaking country, and it's uh, very set on real estate development. And it's in a close proximity to London. So if you even Google Gambia's beaches, it looks like you're somewhere in a foreign country, a white foreign country, because there are a lot of white people that come there.
Right.
And that means a lot of real estate is being bought off land by foreigners.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an amazing country. One definitely to keep your eye on because it's in close alliance with Senegal, be that it sits kind of inside of Senegal. And although Senegal is a French-speaking country,
Right.
that Gambian president went to Senegal for refuge during the transition and was even sworn in as president at their Gambian embassy in Senegal. But he speaks English very well. He's highly educated, American educated. And so it's a great country to look at. And they have the most beautiful beaches and shoreline for any kind of development. And if you want more information about that, Profile Africa can provide that as well. But I'm just saying that it's some amazing things going on across the continent. South Africa still leads in many areas. From even healthcare, it's important to understand South Africa's healthcare mirrors America's because we've invested a lot of money there. Even when we came out with our national health care under the Obamacare plan, they mirrored the same and they rolled it out in KwaZulu-Natal. The former premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, is now the Treasurer General of the ANC, but he used to be like the governor, what we would consider the governor of KwaZulu-Natal, and he's also a medical doctor, and so is his wife. And that's the region of the country that really tackled the issue around HIV and AIDS and tuberculosis. And so a lot of healthcare is largely driven out of KwaZulu-Natal. They have some brand new facilities there. So if you're involved in any kind of healthcare aspect of the industry, KwaZulu-Natal is a great place to look at becoming a partner to their provincial government. A lot of core things are happening there in a really positive way. But I'm still just encouraging that you stop spending your money in this country. Stop your buying. Stop it. Stop it. Save your money. Go see Africa and contact Profile Africa because we make sure you know Africa and that Africa knows you.
Powerful. Powerful. So we're going to close out. Ms. Johnson, thank you so much for coming back on. I will allow you to have the final word. So, give all your contact information. Also, we'll put your contact information, your site in the description box for the video. But please go ahead and close it out. Whatever you want to say in closing, and please give your contact information again.
Okay, well, one thing I do want to share that I hadn't mentioned before is that Africa Day, first of all, is May 25th. From around the world, they celebrate Africa in the continent and her diaspora. And on May 25th, 2012, right around the corner from my place in Johannesburg, Union and the Pan-African Parliament declared the African diaspora as the 7th region of the continent of Africa. And also, many African presidents have put out a call to the African American community and asked us to come back home and share and be a part of Africa's growth story. So I really want to hone that in for us to stop focusing on what's happening here in the US and really turn our attention because they have put out a call and said that we love you We need you. We need your brain. That you're become a part of our brain trust. We need some of the resources, and we want to connect our resources because Africa is rich in resources, human capital, to intellectual capital, to natural resources, and they are open for business, from public-private partnerships to strategic alliance partnerships to just doing good business on the ground. And Profile Africa is positioned to offer you that. We are a brand, strategy, public relations, and business development agency. You can find us at profileafrica.org. Again, we make sure you know Africa and that Africa knows you, and you are more than welcome. And thank you so very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. And guys, make sure you follow me. Everyone who's watching the stream, make sure you follow me on social media. Search for Huru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Also go to dynastymir.com. Make sure you guys go to searchforhuru.com. And then also make sure you guys go to amazon.com and search the name Dynasty Mir. And please purchase one of my books. Ms. Johnson, it was a great stream. Again, thank you for having us on, and we're gonna have you back too. So don't be a stranger. Everybody in the chat room, thank you for participating and coming on and really absorbing everything that Ms. Johnson had to say. This was a very powerful stream. In fact, Pony's footwear in the chat room said powerful stream. So everybody in the chat, they definitely enjoyed everything you had to say. It was definitely a great value.
Well, that's great. I just want to also say that Profile Africa is taking 25 new business people to South Africa early next year, along with some big top seed Black organizations here in America. And I'm just so excited about it. And if you're interested in such, please indicate that in your comments, as well as contact us again at profileafrica.org. Really look forward to helping you come to Africa, grow, and take your life even to another level. You come in one way, but I promise you, you will leave that continent another way, if you even want to leave, because that was my issue. On my first trip, I knew my divine destiny was to be add value there, and I always tell my family, I will live in Africa. I will prosper myself and others in Africa. I will die in Africa. I will be resurrected with Christ in Africa. Join us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for closing that out. All right, guys. Till next time, search for Huru, the Kapitan Don. Peace.